Okay. So tonight's topic is, what does the Catholic Church teach about same-sex attraction, LGBT+, all of that? So the first question is, are those who have same-sex attraction, are they allowed in the church? And of course, the answer is yes. And so the funny thing is that those who have same-sex attraction, those who have opposite-sex attraction, the rules that the church provides is the same and consistent for everyone, period, hands down, same for everyone. But the biggest thing is those people with same-sex attraction, and one of the largest arguments is, am I going to have to be lonely for the rest of my life? So that right there is the big fear that they have. And we always want to approach this topic, because it's a sensitive topic. We always want to approach this topic with compassion, with sensitivity, because these are people's lives. And the answer to that is yes, but also no. So majority of us in here are married. A lot of us in here are married. I don't think any of us have, since we've been married, just always felt like someone else is there constantly. There have always been moments, even in our marriage, where we have felt lonely. Like there is. And some of the statistics show that the loneliest people are middle-aged married men. Mm-hmm. So being in a relationship, even a heterosexual relationship, is not the answer to combat loneliness. People are going to feel lonely. So our culture right now is more accepting of the same-sex attraction community, LGBT plus community, than ever before. And the suicide attempt rate is higher than ever before. So is the answer, yes, we should just allow this, and yes, we should just be A-okay with all of this? And the answer is not yes. It's, what is the cause for loneliness? And I think this is a term that I came up with as I was typing this up, is we in our culture have experienced the Disney effect. The Disney effect. Mm-hmm. And that is, we were taught that we're Snow White, we are Cinderella, we find our Prince Charming, and we live happily ever after. That is what we are taught from an early age, that as soon as you find Mr. Right, you kiss him that first time, all your problems are solved, and that is just not the case. We know that if you're in a relationship, it's hard. It is hard work. But where it comes down to is people feel like they're on the outside of that. If they have same-sex attraction, they feel like they are on the outside of something that they can't achieve. They can't achieve this acceptance and perfect happily ever after because of it. And that's not true, because we know that marriage, although it is a blessing, is not a happily ever after. It's hard work. And so what it comes down to is taking up our cross. Because people who have same-sex attraction, they're going to say, well, you get this. You at least get to have someone who's there all the time. Your struggles are less than mine, but really everyone has struggles. Everyone has struggles. And I don't remember who said it, but I've heard the story of people having a conversation. He's talking about, well, this is what I suffer. I can't be with someone else that I'm attracted to because it's not accepted in the church, and I can't have this. And the person they were talking to said, well, if it wasn't this, it would be something else. Me and Ross have our problems. We're married, but we have our problems. Everyone has their problems, but we are called to take up our cross. So yes, although suffering may be different from person to person, suffering is all the same. We each have our own cross to bear. We each have our own suffering that we are called to work through with the help of God. We are not called to do it alone. We're called to rely on God to help us through. And if you're constantly looking for someone else to fulfill your loneliness, for someone else to be the source of your happiness, you're always going to be lonely. And especially now in a society where we have social media, especially now in a society where we compare ourselves to someone else's perfect view all the time. And that's something I even went to confession for a few weeks ago, is I went to someone other than Father Edwin, and I said, Father, listen, I am so envious. I get so envious of these people that are on social media. I compare myself to them, to their clean homes, to this. And he very bluntly said, get off of social media. And that's what we do. It doesn't matter if we are same-sex attracted, heterosex attracted. What we do in our culture is we make divisions everywhere. Whether you're English speaking, non-English speaking, whether you're heterosexual, homosexual, whatever it is, we take those divisions and exasperate them so much to where we're now just comparing one thing to the other. And there's a popular phrase that's going around right now that's, let's normalize fill in the blank. Let's normalize breastfeeding in public without covering up. Let's normalize seeing same-sex people holding hands out in public. Let's normalize XYZ. And the thing is, you know, there are some things that need to be okay. That, yes, women should be paid the same as men if they're doing the same job. Those are things that should be okay. Is it okay for women to say that they are a man when they don't have those body parts? And that's where we do need to make sure that we're being strong in what we are saying, because there are things that are objective truths. So what is a truth? A truth, according to Wikipedia.com, very valid source, truth is the property of being in accord with fact or reality. And when I was researching just a definition to put in for truth, some of the definitions that I saw for truth were not really definitions for truth. It's kind of like the line between a truth and fact versus the line between an opinion are very blurred now. And it's almost like they don't have a definite answer. A lot of the places that I was looking, it said truth is being associated with truth. Number one, you can't use the word you're trying to find in its own definition. It just doesn't work out that way. But truth is the property of being in accord with fact or reality. So someone walks in here and they say, it's raining outside. Middle Tennessee, right now it's raining outside. And we come in here and I'm like, I hate rain, guys. It makes my hair really frizzy. I absolutely hate the rain. Come in. How are you?
It might get in my home, my pizza ready.
You and me both. Come on. So we have objective truth. It's raining outside, but I don't like it. I don't like the fact that it's raining. Well, regardless of whether I like it, regardless of whether I agree with it, regardless of whether or not I even believe the fact that it is raining outside, the truth is, it is raining outside. There is no, it's your truth versus my truth. There is one truth. There is the truth. And that is being in accord with fact or reality. So, what is the truth about our bodies? So the Theology of the Body was written by, I always get it backwards. Is it Saint Pope John Paul II or Pope Saint John Paul II? Pope Saint John Paul II says, the body and it alone make visible the invisible, the spiritual and the divine. The body and it alone makes visible the invisible, the spiritual and the divine. We were never, ever meant to be separated from our bodies. When God first created us in His likeness, in His image, He created us with a body. What happened was we fell into death. We died, and that death caused a separation from our body and our spirit. our bodies reveal what is invisible about our spirit, being that we are our bodies. Whenever Jesus came and resurrected, he resurrected with his body as a man. We were never meant to be separated from our bodies. Our bodies reveal who our soul and spirit are. So if we are female now, whenever we die and resurrect, we will be female again. And so how do we know? There's that awesome documentary that Matt Walsh does, What is a Woman? Has anyone seen it?
Oh, is it good?
It's crazy good, but also crazy scary. So there are just some things in there that are just scary to see. But what a thing is, when you define what a thing is, you define a thing by what it's meant to do. So as Father Mike says, it's what it is and what its forness. So his example was a chair versus a table. So if you have a chair, what is a chair for? To sit on. Yes, you can use a chair to sit. So chair equals sit, so you sit on a chair. That's what it is. What you use it for defines what it is. We can have different kinds of chairs, but ultimately what the chair is what it's for. Same thing as table. You have a table to set things on, to put things on, put our plates on. But sometimes, if our table's full, like mine is all the time, sometimes I put my groceries down on a chair. So I set something down on a chair, but that in itself doesn't violate the nature of what it is. It is still a chair. So sometimes we can use a thing for something other than what it is made for. And it doesn't violate the nature of that thing. However, there are things that we can do to an object that do violate the nature of the object. So if I were to take that chair and use it as a hammer, it then violates the nature of what that chair is used for. If I take that table and I try to use it as a speed bump, it destroys the table and violates the nature of what it is intended to be used for. So our bodies, we have two sexes, and that is all. Males, what are their bodies made for? Their bodies are made and oriented toward impregnation. If you have the anatomy that is oriented towards impregnation, you are a male. If you have a female body, your body is oriented towards gestation. Those are the only two sexes that we have. Our bodies are designed and meant to do specific things, and that gives us the nature of the thing. And so when it comes down to things like transgenderism, or males feeling like females, females feeling like they're males, well, if I were to ask a male, do you know what it feels like to be a woman? No. If I were to ask a female, what does it feel like to be a man? We can't give you that answer. All we can give you are stereotypes. I can say, girls like to play with dolls. Girls are more patient and kind and sweet, and men are stronger, and men love to play with action figures. We have stereotypes. So if my child grows up and he's more patient, he likes to play with dolls, he likes to do X, Y, Z that are more typical of a female characteristic, does that make him a female? No. Those are arbitrary things. That does not change the truth and reality of what your body is, what your body is designed to do. Same thing for men or females. If, I grew up playing sports, I thought I was a tough girl. Maybe I can say that we were, tomboys, term from way back when. Mm-hmm. But does that make me a man? No. My body indicates that I am a female. And so even those things, if my son likes to wear skirts or something, well, that's arbitrary. Jesus wore a tunic. You know, people in Scotland, they wear, what are those, kilts? Kilts, and those look so cool. But those things are arbitrary. They do not change the nature and truth of what our bodies tell us about ourselves. And so what we have to do is we have to take our perception and change it to match reality. And we see this a lot with people who have things like phantom arm, or they may have like lost an arm or something due to
cancer,
being in battle, or and they feel like their arm is still there. Well, the reality is it's not. We have to change your perception. We have to change the way you're thinking. And the opposite is true too. There are people, and I forget what the term is called, but who feel like their body parts are not their own. Someone who, it's BIID. I don't remember exactly what those letters mean, but I know that's the term for it is BIID, and that's where someone believes that their body parts are not their own. So they have their hands and they go to a doctor and say, "Doctor, this hand is not mine," or "This hand doesn't work properly, I need it amputated." And doctor says, "No, I cannot chop off a healthy working arm, because that is not reality. Reality is you have a perfectly functioning arm. We need to change your perception. We need to change the way you are thinking about yourself." Same with anorexia, same with any of these other mental diseases where we need to change our perception versus reality. So what happens then when we come to sex? Where does the difference fall in our culture that, okay, well, doctor, I no longer feel like I need a penis, please remove it. And doctor says, okay, let's do this.
At 13.
At 13. Yes. Where does that come from? And some of it is money. Some of it is. There's a lot of money there in our culture. Some of it's just that understanding is misplaced. Some of it's media. These children don't know any different, any better. And if you are 13, who's driving you there? Maybe it's your parents, and they're not teaching that, okay, well, if that's how you feel, let's change your perception. Let's change the way that you're feeling, or at least give you an understanding where if this is your feelings, let's take up our cross in that. Because a lot of it comes down to feelings. That's where so much of this comes down to, is feelings. And a lot of it is misunderstood, misplaced feelings that we don't want to suffer. We don't want to feel the hurt. We don't want to feel the pain of whatever it is, of loneliness, of being misunderstood, of whatever it is. We don't want to feel that. And so the thing with our identity and transgenderism is we need to stop putting a label on where, very, very bluntly and maybe kind of crudely, is where we put our genitalia. I mean, that's not who we are. Who we are sons and daughters of Christ. That is where our identity is. And so we need to focus on that, is we are all sons and daughters of Christ, and we all have to abide by the same rules. And so that leads us into sex. Sex itself. What is the nature of sex? And I think we all know what the nature of sex is, but what is it for? What is sex for? Making babies, reproduction, and there's another one, and it's for unity. So whenever you're having sex with your husband or wife, it releases chemical bonds that bond you to the person that you're being intimate with. So sex is for unity and procreation. Those two things. The church teaches that every sexual act performed outside of those parameters are a mortal sin of the same caliber. which is kind of redundant. Mortal sin is mortal sin, period. Once you commit one, you gotta go confession. But anything outside of procreation and unity is a mortal sin. So we can have, say, a husband and wife, they just want to feel close. Yes, you can have sex, and it's not destroying the nature of what it is. It's not destroying the nature of the thing, as long as it's open to life. However, there can be sex between husband and wife that is a mortal sin. That's not open to life. And we know this, we have Genesis 38, 8 through 10. Then Judah said to Onan, "Go into your brother's wife and perform the duty of a brother-in-law to her, and raise up offspring for your brother." But Onan knew that the offspring would not be his. So when he went into his brother's wife, he spilled the semen on the ground, lest he should give offspring to his brother. And what he did was displeasing in the sight of the Lord, and he slew him. We know that even sex between husband and wife can be a mortal sin. So if it's not open to life, or husband says, or whatever, I feel like I need to do this tonight, and whether you like it or not, I'm not going to care about your feelings, whatever, we're going to do this. That's what I get to do as your husband. That's also against the unity and what it's for of sex. And there is such a thing as marital rape. So whenever we have marriage, it should still be that sex, that act that's performed, should still be oriented towards unity and procreation. So things that are not within those bounds, I'm a single man or I'm a single woman and I wanted to masturbate tonight. Well, number one, that's not ordered towards unity. Number two, that's not ordered towards procreation. Mortal sin. Same sex. Those acts are a mortal sin because it is not ordered towards unity and procreation. And that is what it comes down to. It comes down to those two things. What it is defined by what it is for. Now again, some people are going to say, well, I won't ever get that then. You're telling me I won't ever get to have that feeling. And the answer is kind of yes. However, that feeling is meant to bring us closer to God. We are asked to take up our cross, and that's what it ultimately comes back to every time, is we are called to take up our cross. But in all of this, if the same rules apply to people who are married, the same rules apply to people who are of same-sex attraction or who are opposite-sex attraction, is that hate. Do I hate you because you are of same-sex attraction? Does the church hate you because you are of same-sex attraction? No, we don't. And none of this is their hatred. And all of this is meant to be more love and more bringing of closeness to God. Because there are several married men, there are several married women who are not having sex, who are not feeling like they are close to their husbands or wives whenever they're performing their act, who do feel lonely. Then there's people who choose not to be in a relationship, or who are same-sex, or choose to join the clergy, and they don't have sex either. Hopefully. But in all aspects, every single one of those people still face temptation. There's always going to be that temptation between a husband and wife to have sex outside of NFP. So if you ever see me in the house not going to communion one Sunday, you know, it happened the night before. But everyone, it's true. It's everyone faces the temptations. How are we to deal with it? Well, we take a cold shower and then we go pray. We stop and we think about Paul. Because what Paul says in 2 Corinthians, and to keep me from being too elated by the abundance of revelations, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me, to keep me from being too elated. 3 times I begged the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. I will all the more gladly boast of my weakness, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. For when I am weak, then I am strong. We are not meant to do it alone. We're meant to do it with God. And the crazy thing is there isn't even marriage in heaven. Marriage is a sacrament here on earth to, number 1, help get your spouse's soul to heaven, and number 2, to build God's kingdom, to have more children, to build in God's kingdom. Once we get to heaven, there is no more marriage. We are there in God's kingdom, and we are fully fulfilled by God alone. We are not fulfilled by another person. We don't need another person. And so we also need to remember that our bodies will resurrect with us in the bodies that we have now, just in a perfected form, without that bonds of marriage when we get to heaven. So we have in our culture today such a confusion and such a brokenness, because we have this Disney effect. We have this comparison that we make with other people, and we don't want that suffering. And so what Jesus has done, we have this great news from Jesus himself, who says, take up the cross. I have taken up my cross, take up your cross. And he has taken the dead wood of his cross and he has made it fruitful. So we are all called, whether we have same-sex attraction, whether we have opposite-sex attraction, whatever it is, we are all called to take up our cross and follow him. Whatever it is, follow him. And so he has called all of us to be saints, regardless of whatever it is that we're struggling with, regardless of anything else. He has called all of us to be saints. And so there in our culture, we have them versus us. And even in some Protestant cultures, they teach contraception. Well, we know that that's not open to life. So therefore, that's a mortal sin, because that's not part of what it's for. That's not part of what sex is for. So we know that we don't have them versus us. There is one set of rules that applies to everyone, regardless. And so it is our job to, whenever we are faced with people asking questions, whenever we are faced with whatever it is, we need to be able to tell them, number 1, I still love you, no matter what. We are all called to love. We are all called to be a listening ear. And number 2 is it explain to them that we all abide by the same rules. You know, even married couples, if it's outside of that window in the time when you are, you know, able to have sex, if you don't want children, to have sex without it being, without openness to life, then they're suffering in that too. But we just have to be able to explain that we we love you, and we're here to help you. We're here to, get you to be an open ear, to talk to you about it, and know that even if this is what you're suffering with, we all face our own crosses. And so we have to learn to deny ourselves and teach others to do the same. And so there's a big thing going on right now where people with same-sex attraction, if you get married civilly, you have that. Even if they get married civilly, they still have all of the laws that married people have and those kind of things. But where some of the movement is getting at right now is they want to be able to say that they're married in the church. And why is that? Why is it that they want the one thing that we can't give them? We can't tell you that you can marry within our church. Civilly, if you are civilly married, you still have all the legal benefits that, opposite sex marriages have, but they want to be married in the church, and we cannot give them that. The church in Germany right now,
Is that happening here in Nashville?
not so much. Conversation is happening all over the world.
Right.
Churches in Germany.
Are same-sex couples wanting to have their marriage honored by the church and within?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
No, I mean, in Nashville, in this
Absolutely.
area?
Yes. They want it.
Who are they asking for this?
I don't know if it's gone it's more out in social media.
What I'm asking you is, how do you know?
Well, the churches in Germany have it already.
But about
and
the churches
here
in
in
Middle
that.
Tennessee.
Well, it's mostly things on social media and conversations with my friends. Well, why won't the church allow us to have same-sex marriage? The Episcopal churches.
Well, but people are not approaching the national diocesan office to say, I want to have my marriage blessed by the church.
I have no doubt that they are.
I was going to say.
I'm sorry?
I said I have no doubt that they are.
I'm just asking if that's been something that's been reported.
Documented.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's been documented, but I know that they sent fathers for specific training as a priest on how to handle these situations within the last 6-8 months.
Yeah.
So it's happening because they're sending all of the priests out to get educated on how to handle it.
And if it's not here, it's a matter of time.
Yeah,
Because those were the things that
that's why we left
they
Washington.
were trying to push on the Archdiocese of Seattle.
Yeah.
You
So
from
if it
Seattle?
hasn't,
I'm just shocked because I just hadn't heard that.
No.
I mean,
Best schools in the world.
I have several
Used to be.
same-sex
Well, not anymore.
friends that are married. And being anointed by any kind of churches. And that, but, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not free, so
Yeah.
that's not a very big cross-section. So
But
that's,
still.
that's just not even something that,
cross your arm.
well, theirs either. It's just, it's not because of, I guess mainly because they've been cast out by religious groups to begin with because of their choices.
Yeah.
And so they just completely cut off ties with
Altogether.
organized.
Organized,
Yeah.
And that's
traditional.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is, but,
Yeah. Yeah. So we
I get
can't, yes, we can't bless those marriages. We can't bless those relationships, but what we can do is we can provide compassion. We can say, if you have these same-sex attractions, you're going to live as brother and sister in Christ without performing those acts, because ultimately it comes down to those feelings. And so there are churches in Germany now, right, that are blessing those, or how do they?
The German bishops right now, it's called synodality, and the synod on synodality, and we're still waiting to see what Pope Francis is going to do about this. But the church in Germany right now, because nothing bad has ever come out of Germany, is talking about, and it's like you're saying, that these couples, it doesn't matter what we tell them, in order to reach out, we need to go ahead and bless these civil unions and kind of bring them into the fold. So, what is the problem with that?
You're asking
What
me.
would be
Okay.
the problem with that?
Because those are not marriages that
Why?
Those are not the views.
because
Because they can't
cannot-
produce children.
It's not just the view of the church, though. I mean, this is something. I'll
No,
let
no,
you
go ahead.
do your thing,
No, go
but
ahead.
I think one thing that
Playing
we
devil's advocate.
He's good at that. I
well,
like
we
it.
have to. We have because these are
Yeah.
the things that
I
we are
agree.
going to hear,
I agree.
and we have to understand that we can talk about what isn't and what isn't and what isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't valid. This isn't viable. This isn't licit.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to talk about what marriage is. And you talked about what marriage is for. It's for, procreation, and it's for
Unity.
the good of the spouses, the unity of the spouses, that one flesh union. But marriage is not just a union of two people, right? Of course, because two people that are of the same sex cannot produce children. But where is this, what's the word? Forbiddance in the Bible. Do we see this biblically where God is saying these are the only two types of sex, of gender, we should say, as well, that can do this? Because we know that people of the same sex can do these things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So where is that in the Bible that precludes us from that?
Genesis.
Genesis, yes, the Levitical law. We have it also in, of course, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Well,
Correct.
and y'all, if you want to get into the Old Testament, we've got to be careful because they also stone women, and
That's a good point.
we got to be real careful how we menu pick things to support.
Well, we're
our
not-
women. I have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned
No, please. That's what this is for.
I personally know a person that was born with male and female genitalia.
Yeah.
How do we explain that?
And
That's like being born with
Yeah.
6 fingers, or
Right.
it's literally a genetic mutation. It happens.
Mhm.
Right.
And it's happened forever,
Yes.
Right.
and then sorry, I get
No, please.
I get on my medical soapbox a little bit. Typically what they have to do is these individuals tend to lean one way or another.
Right.
So they
Well,
have to go in and do genetic testing. They test the hormones, they say what's going on, and just because say they don't have testes doesn't mean that they're not actually in there.
Right.
And sometimes they are, and they end up having to lean one way or another.
Now, let me ask you this. So technically, and I have the things I've read, the parents make the choice at birth after the
Yes.
test are done and that sort of thing. Why, if someone is 27 years old and says, a female says, I feel like a male, why can't they go through that same DNA testing to see if they actually do have?
Because for them it's not about DNA.
I'm sorry?
It's not about DNA at that point.
We also
Well,
have to
if your
look at
DNA doesn't
this.
change.
We also have to look at this as a point of these fringe cases.
Right.
Just because we have fringe cases where, and it's a very small minority, where we have like chromosomal monothelitism,
Something like that.
remember what the name is. But we have these genetic disorders.
Yes.
That's it. It's a disorder. But I'll put it to you this way. We have cases also where people are clinically brain dead. And even when they pull them off of life support, they still sustain themselves. That doesn't mean that we can't tell who's alive and who's dead. It's pretty obvious and it's pretty evident who is alive and who is dead, but it's because we can't follow from these fringe cases that we can't determine at all who's alive, who's dead, who's male, and who is female.
I'm not necessarily talking about a fringe case. I'm talking about people that are born with male and female genitalia. Within the first months and years of life, the doctors and the families, it's my understanding, they get together, they have testing, they look to see, and then a choice is made.
Right.
For them.
If that can be done to an infant, how can we say you can't do that at age 27?
And the difference there is that, number one, if you're talking about the same infant, that same infant at age 27 then decides, you know, really, I think my parents made their own choice, I'm probably leaning XYZ.
Right.
That is a fringe case. That is a genetic disorder that has happened that only God has the grace to judge. If we are saying a 27-year-old without that, they have the body parts of male or female, that is what they are. If they were to say, I want to get this DNA test to see, you know, am I actually male, am I actually female, because I don't feel that way. Well, number one, I would ask them, what does it feel like to be the opposite? Because if it feels like to be the opposite, that I like trucks, I like this, that, and the other, all these stereotypical things, then, well, that's kind of a feeling. If they are to go
Imposed by society.
imposed by society,
Like
yes.
the colors pink and blue.
Exactly.
Which used to have to be reversed.
It used to be the opposite, yes.
But
So we have
and I'm not
Yes,
talking
please.
about just a fringe case.
Mhm.
I'm saying that, and I'm playing devil's advocate.
Please,
Why
yeah,
not?
that's what we need.
But if someone is a full-grown adult
Mhm.
and they say, you know, all of my life, I'm a female and I have facial hair. I have chest hair. I think something's going on. Should they explore the DNA route?
It's like
They
getting
can, but
It's
I
like
would-
having
I
your
would say
hormones
to
tested
you-
and regulated.
This is what I would say to you at that point. If a female, a woman with the ability to give birth, the ability to,
Right.
has facial hair and chest hair, there is a severe hormone imbalance. And they need to get that addressed before they decide to do anything else.
Their chromosomes
Because
are still going to be,
female.
Female.
Very much so.
Yes.
Correct.
Well, then how do they decide with the same-sex children? I mean, the
The
Today?
intersex children.
with
Or back before genetic testing.
Well, and it wasn't even about genetic testing. It was more about checking hormones and seeing which way
Yeah.
you leaned. Because whichever way you naturally lean is going to dictate the easier route to take as far as everything else is concerned. So,
Correct. And the other thing would be with the hermaphrodite with both genitalia, if it's just somebody who is one sex who at 27 decides they aren't or believes that they aren't, adults do all kinds of things that I don't agree with.
oh, yeah, that's true.
That doesn't mean that they're going to be necessarily
I guess
members of
my
our
point
church
is-
or married in our churches either.
Right, and I'm not condoning anything like this being acknowledged by the church. I think that comes under a whole different heading. But has anyone explored, when people are approaching the sex change decisions, has there been any exploration into DNA and chromosomal
And
research?
I think, yes.
Is that
well,
what?
yes, we,
I think it would depend on the doctor, like if they do all that testing.
I mean, I'm asking,
We-
have you guys, I mean, I haven't heard of it.
we also have, there's an entire commission that is the Catholic Bioethics Commission, that they handle these cases all the time. And if you have those kind of questions, they can field that. I mean, there's several people that I know that are Catholic apologetics that
I'm
do
not
bio.
asking even for the church. I'm just
In
asking,
general.
do people that want to have a sex change
And
operation?
I would say I hope so.
And I will tell you the
But that's
answer is
not
no.
the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Mostly
I will
not.
tell
No.
you that
No.
most
No.
doctors who do these types of surgeries
No.
don't really care.
Because there's no.
And I
Now,
say
we're
that,
making an assumption.
well,
No.
No, we're not.
I
That's
say that
statistically based.
because
Statistical.
you were taking a person's body, which we are very connected to, and you're taking a person who's coming to you in a state of mind. It's
Confused, maybe.
yeah.
Or
It's
And
disinformed.
they're not,
Well,
and I don't think they're
dysmorphia.
really digging into, I just don't think that level of analysis is being done. I really don't.
Don't you think that would be
If that were the
Yes,
case,
right.
if that were the case, what doctor in their right mind would operate on a child
Yeah.
and do that to
There are
them?
some that will.
I
There's a
know,
lot that will.
I know. They shut down the one at Vanderbilt because people found out they were doing it and there were
But
protests.
see, that's,
started.
that's the only way that you can get this movement rolling, is because if you're 27 years old, your brain hopefully is more developed
Oh, yeah.
than a 13-year-old. But that's why there's this push to indoctrination,
Teenagers don't get a choice.
to doing
That-
things.
But
Because
that's what they're trying to do. Like in California, they
I know,
passed a
but
law that said they don't have to inform the
in
parents.
the
If they
law
inform it,
of us right now at St. Williams, teenagers don't.
and if you can get across the border, they will do it.
Because scientific proof shows, especially with
So like going to
males,
jail.
their brains don't reach maturity until 24, 25 years of age.
Right.
And,
Some would argue longer.
And so, to that point, yes, there should be some psychological evaluation or any evaluation to check hormone imbalance, to check are you in the right mind before these operations happen. But what we come down to, what we are seeing is, number one, these people are misinformed. It's about feelings, and they're going to jump into a decision before going through all that. Or number two, that's not happening because there's no money in that. Or if it's happening in leaning towards, you're right, your feelings are correct, or your hormones say X, Y, Z, so yes, you should get this done. And so it's not, we have some resources within the church that will investigate those things and will help people who are struggling with that. But that's if they're reaching out for that. There are people outside of the church who aren't reaching out to that, either because they don't know that that's there, or their parents are telling them, go ahead, get it done. Their friends are saying, go ahead, get it done. It's a cultural thing where not only are they saying, go ahead, get it done, it's celebrated. It is celebrated.
Or mandated.
Mandated,
So the-
romanticized.
So Washington State, where we left a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, just passed a law in May that says the state can come take your children away from you if you don't subscribe to their transgender belief. The
Yes.
minor's choice of transgender
Yes.
protocol, if you don't support them or
yeah.
honor them, they will literally are able to take your children into
Yes.
state custody.
So your 13-year-old can go murder somebody, but they are gonna send that child back to your house
No,
or
they'll go-
whatever they've
No,
done.
they'd go to jail.
But if I don't say my child's a girl, a boy, because she is really a girl,
They can take
then they're gonna take my kid?
Yes.
Correct.
No, they won't take them when they've got mental illnesses and they're trying
Correct.
to kill their siblings.
Or if they're on
But-
drugs,
It is your problem.
if they're drug abusers, or any of those other
Yeah, you're not going
vices.
anywhere right now, Bodie.
But
It's even more insidious than that. They will have special guidance counselors that if, let's say, your child and you have a fight or they're feeling down, they will ask them what's wrong. You know, they will bring them into that conversation. It won't necessarily have to be your child saying, you know, my name is Sally and I feel like I'm a boy.
right, they
So
lean
that's-
that way.
No.
And that's what I think, another
then
thing
they
that
wonder
when
why
you've
people
talked
have
about
guns and
this,
kill each other.
as far as the reasons and the things behind it and the money and all that,
Money.
we can't not talk about evil.
Right.
Whether
It is.
it's the system that is signing off on child mutilation surgery,
Yeah.
or even in the case of what I'm going to call the victim here, where there's been what was the one from the movie Juno, the girl who turned into the guy?
Ellie.
Yeah.
Ellie-
Ellen Page.
Elliot
no,
Page.
Elliot Page.
She, she recognized herself as a guy now, but Ellen Page said that a voice in her head is what compelled her to go to the first doctor's visit, where in the first doctor's visit, they gave her testosterone in the first visit. I mean, so
That's the only reason they can, that's money.
the biggest thing I look at here is just the sheer evil that all of this revolves under. The first transgender surgery ever done was in Nazi Germany.
Yep.
I mean, and it goes back into the pagan religions.
I'm guessing it was an experiment.
It was associated with some of the pagan religions and stuff. It's not as warm and fuzzy as the media and everything tries to portray it as.
And we see that with statistics because the rate of suicide is just as high, if not higher, in pre-transition to post-transition in people who feel that way. And I want to springboard off of evil and go back to my point that I was working on, which is what makes it immoral, what makes it evil, where is that found, where do we find that? Because we can say this is bad because of this or this is bad because of that. But we need to look at why it is and why these rules are the way they are, because we can say these are the rules, but if we don't understand and we can't explain why that is, that's kind of a way that they can wiggle out of it, because then it's just really the arguments that we see surrounding the LGBTQ plus whatever is a relativistic argument. We are fighting primarily against relativism, which is my truth is my truth, your truth is your truth, and there is no objectivity between those truths, and it goes into our body. And we've seen the progression of this, and in the intermingling with the civil rights movement in the 60s, it's become part of human rights.
Right.
We have to understand what a right is, and a right is just a justice that is due to you. So technically, the being that has the supreme rights and the supreme justice is, of course, God. Because as our Creator, He specifically created us, designed us with a purpose, designed us under the natural law, which is what we can see, what we can observe in nature as to how our natures are. Our nature reflecting our reality. And as St. Thomas Aquinas says, sorry, Father, grace perfects that nature. So God is perfecting our nature through the sacrament of marriage, because that's the culmination of our physicalness. Right. But naturally ordered, as Bernadette said, naturally ordered is male and naturally ordered is female. As we see in Genesis, male and female, He created them.
In the image of God.
In the image of God, right, in His dignity. And God chose to take that image as well as a man in the form of Jesus in the incarnation itself. Through His mother, who was female. So that is why it is so evil, and there's very many proclivities against it, like I was saying, in the Levitical law. And Joy, to answer your question, you're right, we have to be careful when we're talking about the Levitical law, because most of the Levitical laws are ceremonial. They're only in that time period. In the Old Covenant, yes sir?
Oh no, I was just
in the Old Covenant, but the things that pertain to the natural moral law, such as sex, such as how you are created and your inclinations to be same-sex or opposite-sex attracted, we see that in the Levitical law. And we know this because St. Paul talks about this. He talks about there's a list, and I can't remember which book it's in. I think it's the Corinthians. But he's talking to the Corinthians, or whoever he's writing to, about some of the bad things that they're doing. And he says, these people will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. Yes. Robbers, adulterers, abusers. And then he uses words that... So the word homosexuality wasn't necessarily coined until right around before World War II in Germany, right? Nothing bad comes out of Germany. Anyway, which that's a loaded terminology. That's a loaded term anyway. But St. Paul uses a term. He uses two terms, and it's arsenokoitai and malakoi, I think. But the terms that he uses are to describe a male-to-male, same-sex relationship. So we see that, and many people who argue against this will try to talk their way out of it and say, well, no, that's him talking about pederasty, which is pedophilia, or talking about this power imbalance. Because one of the main arguments I see against what we're talking about tonight is that as long as it's two adults that are in a consensual and loving relationship, there's nothing wrong with it. And all of the forbiddings in the Bible are against predatory relationships. However, if you look at the etymology, if you look at what St. Paul and Levitical law and Genesis itself are talking about, it's forbiddance against homosexuality itself. So then that brings us to what marriage is for, because I think that it's easy for us to point the finger as well and say, well, obviously same-sex attracted people should not do this. But Jesus is very, very scathing, really, on divorce and remarriage. He's talking about the importance of marriage. He's talking about, he doesn't say God allowed it. He says Moses allowed divorce because of the hardness of your hearts. Yeah. And Jesus tells us that the man or woman, or it's technically the man because the wife really couldn't initiate divorce in that time, but the man who divorces his wife and marries another one commits adultery. Just the same as a man who looks at another woman with lust in his heart commits adultery. Right? So it's provocations against the 6th and the 9th commandment primarily. So we have these really astounding clues in the Bible that make it so we can say, this is why it's morally wrong. And then we can look at the natural law, how, like you were saying, how we are our bodies, how we are our souls. And that not having a union that is open to life or that is ordered toward life, right? Because there's couples that can't have, so it can't say women can have babies and men can do this, because some men are infertile, some women are infertile. So it's good that you worded it that way, that it's oriented towards impregnation and oriented towards
Thank you, Trent Horn.
impregnation.
Yep.
Well, yes, and to give credit where credit is due, I mean,
Yes.
a lot of this comes from Trent Horn. I think you should check out his podcast, because he does a lot of the theology and the apologetics around not only trans issues, but lesbian and gay, because we also have to be careful in lumping people together, because our same-sex attracted men and same-sex attracted women don't necessarily correlate themselves with the trans community. In fact, many so-called lesbians are very against the trans community. So we shouldn't lump them together, but we should know how to answer that. And that body dysmorphia apologetics is more for the trans people.
Right.
And of course, the same-sex attractedness is for lesbian and gay. I think the only other thing that I want to add is that with combating the relativistic mindset, we have to be careful with our language.
Yeah.
Another point about marriage: what is marriage? It is a union between a man and a woman. Saying same-sex marriage or saying trans marriage or whatever is like saying square circle. It's like saying married bachelor. The two are not compatible terms.
Right.
It's nonsense. Marriage only means one thing. And that's just like you're saying, we shouldn't really use homosexual or heterosexual, because you're not your attractions. You are ultimately a child of God.
Right.
But we have to look at, because that's one of the things they're trying to do as well, is that they're trying to infiltrate how we think about it, just like with marriage, saying gay marriage, should we allow gay marriage? Well, no, because gay marriage is not a thing that exists.
Yeah.
And that is why we can't bless your union, because it's not a marriage.
Right.
It's a contractual agreement.
Right.
Exactly.
It's
So-
a term for people to be able to get their insurance at Johnson's.
Right.
Or any
Yeah.
other
Well,
company.
it is.
In my opinion.
That's what I said. It's a contractual situation so they can be recognized for the a family type benefits.
Right.
Because there have been situations where same-sex couples, one person may be in a coma and
Right.
y'all
Yeah.
heard those, and there again, those are fringe stories. I'm just, you know, I always have to play the devil's advocate.
And we need that.
I have to look, I guess, having come full circle, my viewpoint remains the same. I don't wanna know what anybody does.
There, baby. That's between you and God, not me.
Sorry,
I wanna know, I don't care. You do you, I'll do me, and you know what? I'm not the one who's gonna be passing the judgment. So, and that's up to,
True, but that goes back to
a
relativity.
point, yeah.
Because, and again, you know, it's easy to look at the standout couples and say, okay, what you're doing is wrong.
Right.
And we are called to that in love, you know, preach the gospel with love and charity. But we need to be just as vigilant about this with the opposite attracted people.
Yeah.
The people who are, you know, serially getting divorced and remarried. Couples that are not married, that are cohabitating, these kind of things, because it didn't start with the gay community. No. It started with us. It started with the breakdown of the marital and the religious aspects in our culture.
the family.
And we honestly, we're paying the price for it. This is where this leads. When you take God out of the equation, chaos ensues. And we're seeing that. We're living that out, and our children are going to live that out, and their grandchildren are going to live that out.
And we are not an exception. I mean, me and Ross,
Exactly.
Peter's asking why is he in our wedding photos? I mean, we are not an exception. We committed a mortal sin. We can point the fingers at ourselves first and not point it at anyone else. But where it comes to is, number one, we met in this church. We got married in this church. Never at any point did I feel like I couldn't come back to this church because we committed a mortal sin. Yes, I felt some people looked at us funny because I was up at the piano very pregnant and didn't receive communion. But my disappointment didn't come from God, ever. And that's where it needs to come back to always. It does not matter what your mortal sin is, whether it's between people of opposite genders or between people of the same sex. There is room for you in the church. How do we show you that love, and how do we get you through to take up your cross? And that's ultimately what it comes down to. And you're gonna feel certain things. You're gonna have hardships. You are going to have hardships. Things did not turn out 100% better just because we ended up getting married in the church. We still fight. There were multiple times where the question arose: would we be married if we didn't have a child before we got married? The answer is yes, because the Lord put us together. But it doesn't matter what your hardship is. There is room for you in the church, and there is a demon out there who goes by the name of confusion, who claims that his name is confusion. There's so much of that right now. It is so much easier to put someone in front of a camera to blame. The Catholic Church hates you. The Catholic Church will not bless your marriage because you are of same-sex attraction. The Catholic Church hates that you are transgender. We don't. God does not make mistakes. You are not your experiences. No matter what it is that got you to where you are, whether it's you were molested as a child and you are completely, you hate the opposite gender, whether it's whatever it is, the Catholic Church does not hate you. There is room for you in the church. Use Jesus as your example. People hated him. He was a human. He felt all the things. He felt attraction, he felt hunger, he felt pain to the craziest degree that one person cannot feel alone, only Jesus can. And yet, he still died for everyone, regardless. There is room for people in the church, and that's where it needs to come back to always.
The church should be the most welcoming place.
It should be.
It should be, in theory. Often it's not, but I mean, it is. Another thought
Yeah.
is that because you guys have been through, that was a tough period of time for you too, and you had to make some adult decisions when probably you would have liked to not have to be put in that position. But you guys are stronger because of it. Because you didn't lean on what you believe or what your parents or your parents. You opened yourselves up to what am I supposed to do? I feel in my heart that was your prayer. What are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
maybe I think that's, if we become welcoming and say, come on, ask God. See what he puts in front of you.
Yeah. Like Bernadette said, and St. Paul, God tells St. Paul, my power is made perfect in your weakness. I don't know who has seen the movie Nefarious. You should if you haven't, but there's a line in there.
Nefarious.
Nefarious, yes. It's a very good movie. There's a line that he says that the demon is talking about. I'm not going to give major spoilers. But there's one line where he's telling the person he's talking to, you have a choice. You can choose to live a life of sacrificial love.
Yes.
You have that choice. And like I said, I like you're saying, Miss Joy, when you choose to trust God and when you choose to surrender to God, He blesses you abundantly. Abundantly. More so than you think He ever will, even in your darkest hour. And we look at who He's blessed. The best example of a married couple never had a union.
Yeah.
Physical union.
Wow.
We have the Blessed Mother and we have Saint Joseph.
I don't want to hear about
No,
what
they didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything.
Perpetual virginity is a dogma. But and that's where we see the example of chastity. We see Saint Joseph is the most chaste spouse of the Virgin.
And sometimes when I watch the news and I see people in the street.
Don't watch the news.
I know. And periodically I don't. I just turn it off for like a week at a time and I leave it off.
Yeah.
I've just done that in the last month, and it has been.
It's amazing sometimes.
Feeling? Oh, no. Mm-mm.
But I was just going to say.
And then somebody will go, did you know this? And I went, no, I don't watch the
Well,
news.
that's why.
I want to watch the news.
I read
But the thing is,
I read news.
That's
when
what
you
Mama does.
when you watch these people in the streets and they're yelling things at each other and they're when they're young, I think you need to go get a job. And when they're older, I think y'all need Jesus.
I think
But beyond that, I wish everybody could lay their stuff down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's black and white stuff, whether it's alphabet soup stuff, whether it's whatever your stuff is, lay it down and get outside of yourself.
That's all it is, yeah.
Because all you're doing is thinking about you.
Right.
And the world is a very big place and it needs you. God has a plan for you.
Yes.
You were designed by God and there is a reason for you to be here.
Exactly.
And you're never gonna find it if you're out in the street yelling at people about this, that, and the other. It's just not where you're gonna find it.
Yeah.
And I tell the kids sometimes, I say, if you ever find yourself in a hole, and I said, and someday you're gonna find yourself in a hole.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it, but you were talking about loneliness or,
Yeah.
Isolation.
going down that computer hole, where you go into things and
Yeah.
I said, go help somebody. Turn it all off and just go help somebody.
That's good.
Because you are so focused on
You in the moment.
you and how this makes you feel. I said, just take a break from all of that. I said, go find somebody else to help. I said, you will feel better.
That is
It just-
unbelievably wise.
That is.
Advice.
advice is because and having said that, we're still looking for volunteers. To help at the soup kitchen. No,
And you can sign me up. I've been meaning to call you. I just haven't done it yet.
there's quite a few. Appreciate everybody that considers it. But that is very powerful, and that's extremely powerful to teenagers.
Yes.
And
Well, and I was just
If
gonna
we don't turn the TV back on, Joy,
something Ross was saying
find
earlier.
something else to watch.
And I'm not sure how you define relative. I've heard that word before, relativism, but I will tell you that, and it is here. I was gonna say I have friends who live in Washington, a brother who lives in Washington. I know there's some stuff that is, but it's here.
Oh, yeah.
I wish it wasn't, but it is.
oh, wait a minute. What do you mean by relativism? I'm confused.
Do you want to give it? I don't know how to really.
Things that are demonic or things that are.
No.
Relativism is like Einstein's theory of relativity. You know, it's all relative. So it's based on your correlation with the truth. So truth is relative, meaning it is your version of reality is true for you.
I see. Okay.
But there is,
So it's supposed to work for
in essence, no objective reality to
Right.
the relativists.
And I will say that
that's deep.
one of my kids had a friend at school, and this young lady had decided that she wanted to be him. And when she started hanging out with this person, I thought, okay. I mean, my children have had all kinds of friends, and but something in my brain when she started referring to this person as him. At first, and I'm a very live and let live. I've always been that way, you know, kind of, you know, it's between you and God. But the more I thought about it, the more it bothered me. And it really, I sat down and I talked to her one day, and she got very upset with me. And I said to her, I said, you understand she's a girl, right? Yes. She said, but this is how she feels. I said, right, that's how she feels. Doesn't make her a boy.
Right.
And I guess my concern is, before all this got closer and closer to us, it was kind of okay to be, I'm
You didn't
okay,
cross
you're
the line
okay,
path.
you know?
Yeah.
But it is getting to because it's not enough just for us to say, okay, you're a him, or you're whatever it is you want to be, a zebra.
A cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you're going to agree with me or else.
Right.
And that's, at first, I understood what my daughter was doing. She didn't want to hurt her feelings, and that's what she said to me. She said, this is the way she feels, and I don't want to get her upset. I don't want to make her feel, you know, and
But it's okay to
I get
make you
that.
uncomfortable.
Right. I get that. I get the whole, because we did raise them to be, you want them to be kind, you want them to be caring, you want them to
They'll say something you would
not get people, you know,
say to you.
right. You don't want them to be ugly with anybody, or, but at the same time, there is this,
How do you teach
they're not boys. I mean,
There's
they're not.
objective
And for
truth.
us to say it's okay,
Is
we're bending something
Yeah.
that is,
Right, we're lying.
yes.
yeah.
So how do
And-
we approach? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just saying, when did everybody being nice about certain things become now your lack of reality, and I'm supposed to agree with your lack of reality?
Yeah.
Because now, I mean, Michigan is passing something right now that makes it is a $10,000 fine and a felony to misgender someone using pronouns. That's your freedom of speech.
That is.
It's
Why
already
is
that way
it-
in England.
Oh, hey,
Germany.
you know what? You know what I'll say to that?
So let's all go back to being naked.
As a former classroom teacher, I can barely get someone's name.
I was fixing to get
Throughout, you know, forget, if you can tell me, you'll have to correct me 8,000 times.
Yep.
I'll just call you, I'm just.
You or you?
It's okay, I was having my whole third grade year, right?
Things where they want to be called they and them. Those are collective pronouns.
That's another one, yeah, as an English teacher, it's like,
They
because you
can't.
can't even read, when they write
Because
a
they don't
story
want to
that uses,
identify
like, a
as
newspaper
either
article,
gender.
As what?
They don't want to, they're non-binary.
Right, so
But
they're they or them.
It's politically
But
correct.
what's the binary?
Right, exactly.
The
Thank
problem
you.
is now messing with the entire English language. You
Yeah.
can't write a newspaper article
No.
about like Demi Lovato. She goes by they them.
Oh, no, she just changed back to her because it was too complicated.
Right,
Yeah, I saw
because you
that.
couldn't read it.
Y'all reading about
It didn't make
her?
sense
Why
when you
are
tried
y'all
to read it.
reading about her? Quit
So it
reading about
comes
people.
down
I know, like, you speak
to-
about People magazine, she's in there.
Yeah.
but-
You
It
can't get- you
comes
can't
down
get away
to
with it.
we have to stand strong. Yes, we don't want to know what they're doing in the bedroom, but as Father said last Sunday in his homily, we may lose our jobs. We may get persecuted, both, either or. Pay $10,000.
Yeah.
We are going to be hated. Jesus never promised us it was going to be easy. He actually told us it's going to be hard. He told us we are going to be hated. People will hate you for following me. What he did promise us, though, is he would be with us through all of it. He would be with us through all of it. Yes, dear.
Let's talk about charity, because what you're saying is getting at the heart of that issue, where we've replaced charity with be nice
Yes.
or be tolerant, right?
Yeah.
And with those kind of situations, it's important to be prudent. So we don't want to lie about people, right? We don't saying he when it's a she or vice versa or whatever, Z's or unicorn self, whatever,
Yeah.
is blatantly lying.
Yeah.
But there are workarounds to where you can still refer to that person, because I've had to do this in my workplace. And you know, this is not church teaching. The church doesn't have a specific teaching on this, except don't lie. But let's say someone changes their name from Cassie to Carson.
She also did that, or yeah.
Normally when people undergo these transitions, their name will be fairly similar, or at least it will be. It's really interesting to see that, though, because they don't necessarily change from Cassandra to Bartholomew or something like
She went from
that.
heaven to Axel.
It's
No, they changed something
it's
closer to
something
whatever
close.
their name was.
But we can change the way we use our language to where we're not lying, but maybe we're being charitable with this person as well. So in that case,
I haven't had an issue with, but I'm very worried about my children because I found out this isn't just a single case.
No,
She
they're
is
everywhere.
surrounded
yeah.
by these kids who, and it just, and I'm not saying, and
So
I've been around them, they're perfectly nice kids. But
can be
she's having
perfectly-
to change like how she speaks. I mean, it's
Well, Ross, finish your thought, because Ross was going somewhere with this that's really good. So go ahead and finish your thought.
so with Cassie to Carson, let's say, there's been a couple of things. I just use their name.
Yes.
I always refer to them by their name. I use no third person pronouns.
And why?
And it's a way, I mean, if you want to go gung-ho and if you feel like that's what you need to do, then go for it, you know. That's going to be a strengthening of your faith, and it's probably going to be a conviction for that other person at some level. But there is a way to do it if you don't want, or if you want to be prudent about it and you say, okay, well, maybe there's a better way instead of me saying, I'm not going to call you this, I'm going to call you this. Or call you whatever you want to be called.
to be honest, I was introduced to her as Axel. I thought that was her actual name. So I
Because
always
names are
called her that.
arbitrary.
Names
And that's
are
why you can call them by their name
I thought
without
I
lying.
didn't
Carson
know. I
did.
said
So
that.
what has this person, how's that been received?
They haven't really noticed it at all. One, I don't necessarily interact with them all the time, but when I'm speaking about this person, I say, Carson did so-and-so because Carson wanted to do so-and-so, and Carson did Carson is Carson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is a little bit
Yes.
Yeah.
mumbled, but I think it, again, in the form of charity, there is room for that where we can take that as a personal sacrifice and say, okay, I'm not going to lie, I'm not gonna tell lies about
Because
people,
lying is the pronouns.
but
Right.
Yes.
I can make a small consensus. Now, if it's something, again, she went from Cassandra to Jackson or something, something that's very outside,
Yeah.
it may just be better to avoid the situation altogether.
Yeah.
But it's
Just
getting
make up a
hard to.
nickname.
Hey,
Yeah, hey,
Yeah.
Hey,
All right,
Bud.
Jack.
Chief,
Yeah.
hey, Chief.
They're already trying to.
I call everyone Fred. Because I forget everyone's name. Fred? Yeah.
Yeah, oh gosh. Well, and there again, I can, because I forget names as quickly as I learn them. So I can just say, I can't remember. You can't change on me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And heartbreakingly for your daughter,
Yeah.
I mean, she may have to feel some loneliness in that, and
Or
her
find
friends
other
are going.
friends.
Her friends
Yeah.
are gonna, ignore her if she doesn't follow suit or whatever. And
I gotta tell you,
That's
to a
heartbreaking
tip,
for her.
how old is she?
She's 15.
There's
It's not me.
nothing in the world. Spent most of my life with teenagers. There's nothing in the world as important as their peers.
Oh, absolutely.
You're
I
right.
know. I know that.
Amen to that.
And but that's my
Safe haven.
growing concern, I guess, in this arena is
Protect
that
our children.
Have you talked to other parents that are in the same boat as you?
That only,
What was that?
That causes more problems.
I had since discovered that this particular child, she's got a whole boatload of things going on. It's not just one issue. And that's the other thing, it frequently isn't.
the other issues,
And-
what can you do to help your child and that child? That's what's hard.
Yeah. But I'm thinking about now I haven't seen it so much at our school as far as like the books in the library and that sort of thing coming in. But there is this kind of, how can I put this? This is gonna come out.
That's okay.
Just
That's
say-
what we're
But
here
it's
for.
like everybody's gay. Like
Yeah.
I can't explain it.
Dude,
It's like
girl.
it's the flavor of the month. I can't even like it's the in thing to be right now.
It is.
And they
Because
literally
it's
go around telling
Yeah.
each other that they're gay, even though
It's
I know they're not,
celebrated.
and it's weird.
Yeah,
It's
It's trendy.
It's
yes,
fun.
it very much
it is. Yeah.
And
And
when,
it's-
when it happened to
Not dry.
to which every
Don't-
child in their area went.
Don't. I have an old soul. Don't. I'm not accusing anybody of this,
the
but
70s called, they want their turn back.
we've got to also teach children about those gender norms, and that sometimes it's okay to not fall within
Yes.
those specific lines and not make fun of people because they're sissies or because they're butch.
and I
or,
think it's important, even if your kid is really young, ask why, there's a story that was out several years ago, and this little boy really wanted these pink zebra shoes. And they were pink, and he was like, Mom, I really want these shoes. And she was like, oh my gosh, okay. So she got him the shoes, and he wore them to school, and this smile on his face, he was so excited. Well, all the kids made fun of him. And she was like, well, honey, why did you want the shoes? And he goes, because they were zebras, and zebras are my favorite animal. It had nothing to do with the fact that they were pink. It was the fact that they were a zebra pattern, and he thought that they were awesome. Well, if they had just established that to begin with, he could have saved himself a little bit of awkwardness. Yeah. Well, I'll give Colt as an example. My 6-year-old started kindergarten this year, and he made his best friend James, and these two were on football together, and they were just best buds. And they were drawing pictures in, because they were in different classrooms, and they would give each other gifts as pictures.
Aww.
He kept drawing rainbows. Which was, I'm going, you're giving another boy like 1,000,000 rainbow pictures. This can't be good. So I'm kind of going like this a little bit, but I sat him down. I said, Bud, why are you always drawing a rainbow? He goes, well, Mom, I'm a horrible artist. but I can draw a rainbow. And I was like, that makes sense. That tracks. Oh,
There you go.
good. Draw them all day long. That's fine.
Children
But
are
it's like,
innocent.
but if there's an innocence there, and just because your boy wants pink shoes doesn't necessarily mean it has anything to do with them pink. But these parents now are going, oh, this is a sign. I need to run with this and just drive it into the ground, and that's what they're doing.
Your kids
And
say,
it's on both ways though.
your kid says, you know, hey, Dad, I want to be a firefighter. You know, he's like 7 years old. So you get him a plastic fireman's hat, and
Yeah.
he runs around the house for 2 weeks wanting to be a fireman. Week after that, he says, I want to be a policeman. You know, and so, I mean, their minds change and their perceptions change on a moment's notice.
It does.
But I'm supposed to, if it crosses the gender line, I'm supposed to take it
There you
for
go.
dead seriousness.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absurd.
With that being said, is it okay for your son to play with dolls?
If he
I
decided
mean,
he
that's
wanted
my question. That's
I played with my brother's G.I. Joes. I played
Absolutely.
with trucks.
And my niece
plays with
loves
dolls.
dinosaurs.
as long as it was G.I. Joe with my uncle.
Simon plays with dolls.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah.
got it. My question for you right now is a few minutes ago you said something about tomboys. Is that not the word for girls that
Yeah.
like to climb trees and go fishing and hunting and
Yeah.
that's me.
Yeah.
But I also can put my dress on and go be whatever I need to be as a woman, or teach dance, or do dance, or.
And you know, we always have allowed.
Why do we have to make those?
We never allowed boys to be a tom girl.
Right.
We never always allowed girls to put on blue. I mean, because I was born in another city, but we couldn't wear pants for a long time.
Yeah.
But occasionally, girls could put on pants and go out and play. We never gave that same latitude to the male species.
And that's where it comes back to what I said earlier. All of that is arbitrary. Those are male and female stereotypes where Jesus wore a tunic.
Right.
People in Scotland.
See, that's my.
But-
Your
but
hair
that's
is long.
all
His hair was long.
Like boys can't play mom, but
And that's where we need to establish reality.
Yeah.
You are not a cat, even if you're pretending to be a cat. My kids pretend to be superheroes. They pretend to have powers. My kids pretend to do this, X, Y, Z. And you let them. You let them use their imagination within a boundary.
Yeah.
Right.
Allow that.
If you want to use the glitter box, that is not in boundaries.
I'm going to be thin and a millionaire.
Yes.
Yeah.
From now on, you all think of me like that and treat me as such.
But I also think one of the things that you were talking about specifically the erosion of God and church and faith in our society. The other thing and this goes right back to your discussion on marriage and your definition, how we have to define these things, is there are hardly any two-parent households anymore.
That's true.
And the purpose of the father and the mother in a home, whether it's for daughters or for sons, is that example. You're that role model. You are the silent image of what it means to be masculine or what it means to be feminine.
Yeah.
And when over 50% of the population doesn't have the luxury
Yes.
of a complete family home, then you start opening the door to
You
these
do.
other ideas and these
I've
other
got even a
interpretations.
scarier thought for you. I would, if I was a good billionaire, I would bet every penny of my money on if you went to juvenile detention right now, every single person in there came from a single parent home.
Now, see, I worked in the prison system for 10 years for the military, and I would say it was close to like 80%. There was, with the advent of drugs, drugs knows no boundaries and doesn't really care what home you came from once it gets in your system. But yes, I would say the overwhelming majority of a lot of these things is based on
Yeah.
not necessarily having that example of even to the point where, say, and we've heard, well, everybody's heard stories like this where one of the parents did not behave appropriately as a father or as a mother.
Yeah.
And you tend to see in the offspring of that relationship that the children go, man, I know what not to do.
Yes.
Or I know how not to behave. Or I know...
It almost hardwires them that way.
Exactly.
That is
Especially
what they don't wanna be.
with drug abuse and alcoholism or spousal abuse or things like that.
Yeah.
It can.
The only thing else I'll say to this is, this is a slippery slope.
It is.
We started out with, first it was just recognizing gays, right? Before it became gay rights, it was just recognizing that this exists.
Mm-hmm.
And we've come down, I mean, we're of the age where we can remember when it was just LGB. There was no TQRS.
LMNOP.
There was no
back in.
LGB.
Yeah.
Right.
There was not G.
It was homosexual. That was it.
But now you have back to the language, back to your language talk. You have people trying to recognize that pedophilia is a derogatory term,
Yep.
and that it needs to be changed to minor attracted persons,
MIP.
because this is some sort of
Yeah.
genetic, just like the genetic argument for homosexuality, that now pedophilia is of the same umbrella. And it's interesting because you see the kickback from the gay community itself, or the lesbian community itself, saying, look, we have no interest in your children.
Yeah.
We are not grooming anybody.
That's right.
But as a whole, this tent keeps getting bigger.
Yeah.
And it keeps getting more evil and more demonic and more crazy, the stuff that they're allowing under this tent. And so the question down the road is, when do some of the, it's like the modern day feminist is now expected to endorse men in their sports.
Yeah.
So when do the feminists say, wait a minute,
Yeah.
hold on, this is not what this is about?
They are.
And they are. This is where it's starting to spring off.
Yeah.
And it'll be the same way with the gays, the lesbians, and the original tribes that recognized themselves in the past, where they will say, oh, wait a minute.
Now we've gone too far.
We are not associated with these other communities.
There will be a righting of the ship. And what I mean by that, if,
Yeah.
we're listing one way or the other, that things,
There will either be a writing or there will be a flood.
Or recognize.
The chastisement. One of the two will happen.
I have a random question.
Repentance or chastisement.
A random question. And it kind of goes back to the church in Germany. And I can't remember where I heard this, and I might absolutely be pulling this out of my rear because I can't remember where I heard it. But with the Catholic Church in Germany talking about or actively recognizing gay marriage, and then I heard, like you said, the Pope we're waiting to hear what he has to say about it.
he's not going to say anything.
Well, am I right in saying, I heard somewhere that they said if the Pope comes out and he says, yes, this is what we're going to start doing, we're going to start recognizing these people, and that's the avenue, which I don't expect him to do. But if he did, or if he didn't, then the churches in Germany are going to they're going to fracture from Rome.
Right.
They're talking about fracturing the Catholic Church again.
And
Yeah.
this is happening it just happened to the Methodist Church.
I saw that.
They have been ripped in half.
Yes.
And yes, I would say this could definitely happen.
This is going to lead to schism.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for.
Schism. I pray that it's not, and let's say worst case scenario, Pope Francis comes out and says, okay, we do this, anathema. That's not a fallible teaching, he's proclaiming error.
Right.
And at that point, he needs to be
He's not
outed.
the first
I
Pope
was
to
fixing
do
to say,
that.
Right, he's
where
not
does
the
that
first
leave
Pope.
us?
Yeah.
Well, we need to have this talk about papal infallibility.
The reason I'm asking this question because a lady that goes to church in Tullahoma, which has been coming here too some. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. When COVID hit, looked at me and says, you've got to stay true to your faith. You're going to hear things. It's going to have to do with the Pope. It's going to have to do with bishops. It's going to have to do with a whole lot of people. But you've got to stay true to who you are and what your faith is. It's coming full circle for me. This is getting crazier and crazier. How do you teach your children what they are? Because our society is saying you're whatever you want to be. Whatever.
And it comes from home. It comes from being
But the
blatantly
problem is,
honest and having those discussions.
Home's home. Once they walk through that door and they turn 18, you can't control your children. All you can do is pray you've done enough.
Yep.
That's what you do.
Yeah, you pray.
And-
But is it
yep.
enough? Is it ever going
You
to
know
be
what?
enough?
As a parent, you never feel like you've done enough.
No.
I bet if Mother Teresa had children, she would always feel like she could have done something more.
Right.
Even Mary felt that way.
Yeah, it's awful, you know. So, oh yeah, I remember thinking about that when I went to college, and I was like, oh, did I do enough? Did I do enough?
Kathy, I'm going to say this to you is put yourself in Mary's shoes. What did Mary have to go through? Everyone told her son he was wrong.
Oh,
Everyone hated his son, minus the 12, then 11, then 12 again. But everyone hated his son. To the point where they killed him. Mary felt the same. Did she do enough? She was there at his feet when he died. So take comfort in that you are not alone, that all you can do is pray. And yes, you may see your children get persecuted. Yes, you may see them get hurt and all those things.
Actually, I'm more worried about the other way. That my children are following this path. And not in the sense of that they are gay or they want to be changed or whatever. What are they bringing up their children?
We committed mortal sin to the point where we had a
Well,
child.
that's different because I'm in that same boat too.
It's
You
not
gotta remember,
though.
I know
It's
that boat.
all sin. All of it.
It is.
All of it is sin. What it comes down to is all you can do is pray. Period.
And trust God.
Trust in God.
Because, as Bernadette says, where was sin ultimately defeated? At the foot of the cross.
Yeah.
The victory is won. We've won. We've won, everybody. Jesus.
Spoiler alert.
We don't win. Jesus, we win through Christ's victory.
No.
So yes, while things seem dire, things seem bleak, we have error that's being taught by members of the church. We may be heading towards schism. Who knows what Pope Francis is going to say? I personally think that Francis gets a bad rap and that he hasn't actually said what people says
He's been pretty
about
consistent.
gay people. Anyway, but yeah, Christ is the victor, and if you put it's one of those things where God's asking you to trust Him.
Yeah.
And I got all that, and my feelings for whatever you choose to be, and like Joy says, your bedroom is your bedroom. That's not between me and you.
Or back
I've had
to
to fight this battle at work with a lady I work with. But my kids are never gonna be taught by a gay person. You don't know that.
You don't know that.
What people do in their bedroom is their business, not yours. And it isn't between you and them and God. It's between
No, you're good,
them
you're
and God. I've also come face to face with a girl that I didn't know what
Yeah.
to say because she's gay. I knew she was gay. She had been molested by her dad and all of his friends. She was a big girl. And I worked with her and her mother. Her mother was a large lady, and I don't mean large as in fat. I mean their bone structure is a man structured body. Yes, they had women features, but they were just big built, big boned people. And I thought, God, what am I going to do if she asks me?
Tell the
The
truth.
Bible tells you, open your mouth and the words will come. And she did ask me.
Yeah.
She did ask me. And I looked at her and I said, look, what you do with your life is between you and God, not me and God. I have nothing to say about what you do. I said, but I will tell you this. God put a man and a woman on this earth to replenish it. And without that, then there's no life.
Right.
It will end.
All right, go ahead, Juan.
Okay, so I know right now everyone feels kind of down.
You gotta talk louder.
Now, we need to remember one thing. How old are these bishops? These popes? What century were they born? They were born in an era that World War II. They were all coming from the Vietnam War. They had so many ideas, so many different thoughts, that now we're in the 21st century. They're trying to agree with the people. And what I've been into, a lot of the things that I've been told, we just need to wait for them to just die. Now, and
It is a valid point, though.
the reason is they have ideas from the past, and they do, like we said, Pope Francis sometimes get a bad rap. We just need to wait for the younger people. Like we're all young. We don't agree with a lot of the German church.
We're identifying you already, right?
We don't agree with what the German church is doing,
Yeah.
and a lot of the seminaries who are in the seminary, they are trying to go back to old traditional church. Like,
Yes.
how many of y'all have been to a Latin mass? That hasn't happened in a while since this year. All these younger priests, seminaries, they're trying to go back to the right path, how Jesus taught us.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get rid of these older bishops, these older cardinals, all the Pope, and we're just waiting for them to die so that we can get back right on the right path.
But is that
That
gonna be
is the
better,
point.
or could it be worse?
It could get worse, but from the way it is right now, yes, right now we're in a bad area, in a bad era, but from the looks of it, we just need to give it some time. And of course, pray as well.
Yeah.
But
Time's always a good thing, but it's also a bad thing.
Well, I don't want to make prophecy, but we're seeing now, like Juan is saying, we're seeing that kind of a cresting of what's going on right now with the confusion, and people are getting sick of it. We're seeing this in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
They're starting to strike down all of these different, let's just call them leftist ideologies that they're wanting to push on everyone. And we are seeing, especially from the younger generations, a turning back to the old right
Yeah.
Latin Mass. But I mean, that's kind of unique to the Latin Church, though, because
But are you
the
saying
Eastern
for the
Orthodox are
total
pretty-
Latin Mass where they were turned the wrong way and they did nothing but
I
Latin?
disagree with that, but
again,
I'm asking.
all of our doctrine that we have is a mix from every single
Yeah.
every year of the church that it's been alive. A lot of the saints got a lot of things wrong. A lot of the bishops got a lot of things wrong, but we still pick. We all pick from certain things that were correct. Like Thomas Aquinas, like you told me, he got wrong the
the Immaculate Conception, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of our.
And if you go back and look at Constantine and the when they took all the female things out of Margaret's heard me talk about this before, all the female pronouns were removed. All the
Yeah.
So pretty much we just have to wait and pray.
Yeah.
Of course, there's been martyrs already about,
Yeah.
the young people,
Yes.
a lot of young priests have already been killed because they try to teach not the viewpoints of right now, but of, what is correct.
Yeah.
And I know we kind of still need those martyrs to, those priests to die, to show the people that, we're heading, if the church keeps heading the way it is, like in Germany, we're all going to end in a very bad place.
But I don't think the whole church is going that way.
No,
I think
of
the
course.
church in Germany is going that way.
And of course-
But that being said,
But that's
there are a
happened
lot of
before.
Catholics in Germany. I was reading an article Wednesday. A whole lot of them are leaving the church in Germany
Yeah.
because they are unwilling
Yeah.
to support this.
Yeah.
But is that
So-
the answer?
No, but here's the thing, and I didn't know this. I never cease to be flabbergasted when I learn things about Europe that
Yeah.
in Germany, when you are baptized, you baptize as a baby generally. I'm not saying you can't be later, but typically they baptize as babies the way we do here. You are not just baptized into the church, you are officially registered as a Catholic. It goes onto all of your government paperwork, and the moment you get a job in Germany, your church taxes, that's what they call
Yep.
tithing, comes straight out of your paycheck and goes straight to the church.
10%.
So they're not just saying,
Interesting.
Everyone.
I they're not saying, I don't want a relationship with God. They're saying, I don't agree with this.
Yep.
I'm
I don't
not
want my
going to
money
believe-"
going to there.
Exactly. And they have to literally, they call it self-excommunication. They are essentially divorcing their church because it's not just that they're baptized Catholics and they go to a Catholic church. They can't just go, I'll go to this Catholic church down the road where I agree with. This is
Basically why we live.
it's tied into their.
It doesn't matter
everything.
what religion you are. If you're like, there's a lot of predominant Lutherans, obviously, in Germany. So Baptist, Lutheran, agnostic, well, maybe not agnostic, but you're right.
Organized.
Any religion
Yeah.
that you subscribe to, whatever, you pay the tithing out of that government funding, and that is why the church in Germany has such influence. Because they are
Yes.
the money.
They are
That's where the
making a
money's,
lot of money for the church.
because it's required.
because of
Wow.
the way it's done.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those people are trying to make a point.
But that's
Yeah.
not.
We do not agree
Yeah.
with what you are doing. And
And
they
it
are
was-
starting to leave in droves.
Yeah. It was actually, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
It was kind of heartening too when we went to Germany, because I was expecting, when we went to some of the churches there, the masses there, I was kind of expecting just to hear some of the leftist rhetoric, and I did not hear any. I mean, they weren't like great sermons, but you know,
There was
was
one church we went to that we
Hang
loved.
on.
well, but we didn't go
I
to
have
the
to stop.
Yeah.
service there.
You say leftist like it's a bad term.
I'm left-handed, what are you talking about?
I'm not going to say whether they're good or bad.
Well, where do we find these ideologies primarily? Is it in more the conservative right wing or the leftist
It's
progressive?
all in what you believe. Every bit of it is all in what you believe. Anybody on either side can find scripture, verse, quote after quote after quote.
That's true.
True.
And leftist is more of a political term, but there are more of these ideas coming out from those groups.
And being pushed.
Well,
And
I'll
being
rephrase
pushed.
it. I haven't
Yes.
heard any heretical
There you go. Yeah.
sermons.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Heretical.
So I'm going to put a pause on this. We can keep talking, but it is 7:30 and it usually ends at 7. I love this conversation that we are having. I think that it all ultimately comes back to, you know, we all identify as children of God, and those who are confused are looking for that identity somewhere else. Those who are confused just don't have that. So our job is to show them love, number one. And number two is stand up for what we believe in. Stand up for the truth, the only truth, and go from there.
We
Yes.
could become martyrs as well. Sorry.
Yeah.
What was that?
We can all become martyrs.
Oh,
My biggest concern, this is not the time to go into it. I'll do that another time.
We'll have another one.
I'll get on that
Yeah.
soapbox another time.
I'm going to bounce off that one because we have, like we talked about in
We joke about it.
our community of saints saw, there's two types of martyrdom. There's
Yeah.
red bloody martyrdom where you're literally killed for your faith, and there's white martyrdom.
Yeah.
Which
So-
is what? I've never heard
Which
of
is
it.
when
I knew.
you're persecuted.
Okay.
It's a bloodless martyrdom where you
Like what happened
undergo
to the kids
That's
persecution.
what you're trying to do to the
Or
leftists.
exactly.
100%.
That's going to
I'm
help
on
their
board.
salvific journey. I'm an instrument.
I need to make one observation.
Yes,
if I
ma'am.
can.
Go ahead.
This young lady sitting to my left has been so quiet and has taken the most copious notes. And I would love to be able to read. We need to have reflections from them sometime. No,
And then you can hear a second.
If you are
Yes, go
comfortable
ahead.
though, I would like to hear about yours.
She's got a question. Go for it.
Just back to the overarching thing.
Loud, please.
Okay, back to the overarching thing. How do we talk like one-on-one with these people to get them to turn from their self-interest into what God's purpose is for them?
Number one is it's not you. Don't go in it with the expectation that you can turn them. Period. Number two, talk truth. Because all you can do is talk truth and let them know that you are not there to fight them or to hate them. You are there strictly to tell truth, so that they know that if the Lord and Spirit moves their heart, they can come back to you. That you are there to support them when the Spirit has moved them. Go ahead, dear.
Sorry, Father. As St. Thomas Aquinas said,
Real loud.
loving someone is willing the good of the other.
Yes.
So loving may not be accepting everything that they think about themselves, but taking that opportunity to be courageous and say, I love you more than how you identify, because I think it's bad for you.
Yeah.
And this is why.
But I love you more than cutting you off because of this. That's what's important too.
I love you no matter what the sin.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's,
Because that's not our job.
I know, we gotta go.
No, well, we don't have to leave, but
Yeah, we
I want to take a quick second to say that our next meeting is in 2 weeks from now. It is going to be back at Alfonso's, and it's going to be Ruben, who is doing the conversation. He's leading the topic on Mary Apparitions Part 2. And then starting in August, we're going to bump it down to once a month because life is crazy.
That's the 23rd.
Is that the 23rd? Then yes.
That's the cookout.
Oh, well, my kids will be there. Well, we'll be at Alfonso's. Okay, we'll talk.
Okay.
We may have to change it, but we'll talk.
We're having a cookout here.
That's for the altar service I was telling you about.
Oh yeah, I don't know anything about
The
this.
parents are
parents.
supposed to be here too.
So we'll talk, because we may change it then. We may change it.
Okay.
And then starting August, we're going to go down to once a month because
Where
life
is
is
the
crazy.
cookout taking place?
Here. For the altar servers,
Okay.
and we're going to have a movie
And
night
for
as
their
well.
parents.
And for their parents, sorry.
The whole entire reason is to help to get the parents organized. Father
Right.
wants them,
What time are they doing this at?
I don't know.
I pulled up your email a minute ago.
We gave letters to all the ones that came to the thing the other day with Father.
Got drawn on the table.
Did we?
Are you worried that
I'm
you
sorry.
got somebody like
No,
that?
No,
on
I
the
was just
table?
wondering, could we meet here again if it's
Was
just
that,
gonna be right out there?
No,
or
we're
if-
gonna be in here.
Oh, you're gonna be in here,
Was that-
okay.
Second
You
altar
saying
server?
that?
No,
when
there
are we
wasn't
gonna
a
do
second
one
altar
for
server. I asked her
being
that. She was like, we don't
Eucharistic
need
minister?
anything.
August.
I gave every
The
bit of
date's
that
in the-
information to Father. Is Father
It's in the
listening to
bulletin.
this?
Yes, he is.
Good. Hey, Padre, I gave every bit of that information to Father. He has the list.
It's in
He
August.
was supposed to choose a chairman and get it going. I can't do that for him.
Hope you're having a good vacation, Father.
Yeah.
Do it when you can.
Safe travels.
Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to hurry up and get back, that's all I can say.
Hey, oh, did anybody mention that the priest this morning was through in 45 minutes?
Mo said, I called him on my way home, he said,
I wasn't at Mass today, Father. I wasn't there.
45 minutes.
The Spanish
Not
like that yesterday.
Says the woman who spoke more than anybody else.
Oh, he goes, says the woman who spoke more than anybody else.
Love and charity. Love and charity. Oh my Lord.
He's gonna see the video. The evidence is there.
There's no way I spoke more than you.
I spoke the most. I'm a
He's a
You
big
did.
Good.
Okay, so the 23rd is the altar server thing.
Yes.
Do we know what time?
Did y'all
we
not
will.
get 11?
No.
Try when y'all know.
No.
Nope.
Apparently she typed up the letter.
There was a
Go for that,
letter,
this
it
other
was
camera.
written in Spanish, and
Pillar.
Father had it, and when he had the training, he was supposed to get it out to the parents and the altar servers.
5 o'clock on the 23rd. There will be a cookout and movie.